Thank you guys for being here. I'll have the panelists introduce themselves. My name is Justin Hall. I'm a cartoonist as well. I do a few different comics, Two Travel Tales, Hard to Swallow, Amazonia, The Uncanny Super Tranny. And I'll have the panelists here introduce themselves. So, Gail, if you want to start off there, just introduce yourself. You don't have to do interpretive dance.
Hi, I'm Gail Simone. I write comic books for a living. Marty's got nothing to do at all, so my world is perfect.
Hi, I'm Gilbert Hernandez, co-creator of Love Marvel. I'm trying to make up anything.
I'm Paige Braddock. I do Jane's World, and I co-create the Martian Confederacy with Jason McNair. And then I also have a day job where I work with Snoopy and Chocolate.
Oh, okay.
That was
Snoopy.
Snoopy.
Something to write
Charles
about.
Schultz, sorry.
It was a code.
I'm Howard Cruz. I came up through Underground Comics and probably best known for the comic strip Wingle and the graphic novel Step Rubber Baby.
All right, so this is a panel here about writing queer characters in comics, and doing a panel on writing comics. It seems appropriate to start off with mentioning that one of the kind of most important comic book writers passed away recently, a week or two ago. Harvey Pekar, creator of American Splendor. This is Greg Rebbe also. So, Pekar was a pioneer in showing that the comics medium could describe everyday life. And as far as I know, we didn't really work with LGBT characters, but my tortured, convoluted way to connect Harvey with the theme of this panel was that he was very interested in truth, and was the first person to kind of show that comics could describe everyday life and be truthful. So I think 5 to 10% of the population is LGBT. By not having characters who are queer, writers advance a view of the world which is fundamentally untrue, it seems to me. So my question to you all is, how would you respond to the statement? What's your relationship to the concept of truth as a writer? And do you see your portrayals of queer characters as part of that?
Okay, starting at me. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous to have a work of any kind of art, particularly something as broad as comic books, not reflect the world as it is, and to exclude, an entire section of humanity is ridiculous. And I don't even. It's so ridiculous to me that I don't even understand it. It's just, and to me, it's kind of like this new frontier that shouldn't be new, but unfortunately it is new, and we need to break through that and make it so that it's not even, people don't think of that anymore. And I'm really happy to say that the younger people that I know do not think about it in a negative way anymore. So I think we're getting there.
This is Judd Wennick here. So Judd, actually, you just arrived, but I started the discussion off with the idea that Harvey Pekar just died, creator of American Splendor, and he was instrumental in this idea of kind of bringing truth into the comic book medium and portraying everyday life. Wanted to know what you thought about your work in terms of portraying the true diversity of people, of different kinds of characters. How do you relate to truth as a writer?
Two different animals. If we're talking about I'm going to discuss two different animals. If we do this the whole panel, we'll never get anywhere. Okay.
In what I'll call our sort of indie trade, so non-superhero stuff. That is where I think you can get and you'll find your stories which relate more to life, to our own experiences, where we as creators, you'll find a lot of us in there, and probably even more of an obvious way. With the mainstream superhero comics, I think those of us up here who do that, we try and inject this unreal realism. We work in these universes that have people of all different shapes and sizes, literally. You know, they're from different planets, from different dimensions, some are immortal, all different colors, literally. And we've always had an attitude that, well, you know, in this unbelievably diverse universe, which is so much more diverse than our own, what's the harm in having a few gay people here and there? You know, both as just members of this reality to actual superheroes. So in that way, it's about looking at, you know, this unreal world that we, you know, work in, and interjecting this very real and obvious thing, which, you know, often gets overlooked.
I was going to say, I mean, what's the saw? You know, art is truth and truth is art. And I believe very firmly that you could be, you know, writing the most high concept, independent, you know, black and white, I drew these pages with my own blood, sweat and tears comic. And you can be doing, you know, Superman fights, trying to bad robot guy. And both are art. And I've had this argument with many creators, you know, you don't have to approach it as art for it to be art, but whether or not you want it to be, you're creating. And if it is going to have any emotional resonance at all, it has to be emotionally honest. And to deny, as Gail said, any segment of humanity renders it dishonest. That isn't to say every story has to focus on, you know, an African-American character's struggle with racism. That can be a very specific story. But when you're talking in particular things like the Marvel Universe and the DC Universe, and the key word is universe, it's not just ridiculous to say that it's a straight universe, it's obscene. I mean, it's just patently false. So,
I mean, there's
Purposeful exclusion is what gets me really angry. So.
But diversity is selective here. I mean, you know, you have none of the superheroes have, you know, pure conscience. You know, so how we determine diversity is a selective thing.
Yeah.
One of the things actually, Gail, I was noticing on your Facebook page before you came here, you mentioned that you were going to be on this panel, and got an interesting reaction from someone who said, you know, gay characters, you know, why are we doing this? You know, that's ridiculous. I don't want to see that. Why don't we have more diversity of racial diversity? And you responded, you said, well, what do you have a problem with LGBT characters? And he basically said, I don't want to see them, but I do want to see more, you know, ethnic and racial diversity. And do you see, in terms of issues of diversity, do you see, you know, diversity of sexual orientation and gender as kind of being different from other kinds of diversity?
I personally do not, but I think that because it hasn't been explored as much in this medium, it makes it a little bit different. And I do have editors and different people ask me, well, Gail, what do you think? Do you think we should announce that this character is gay, or do you think we should just let it happen in the story? And, you know, it's all kind of like, how do we roll this out? And my answer is, I don't think we should put a scarlet letter there. I think it should just be part of the story. There are few enough gay, lesbian, and transgender characters that we can't afford to have any of them be poorly done, poorly rendered. You know, we can't afford to have them be shitty. So I'm concerned about that. But for me, diversity needs to be there. And if somebody has a problem with it, I really don't care that much from my standpoint. And that's why I do respect everybody on this panel, because we've all had to take crap for writing and creating and supporting and doing these panels and things like that. Yet we do it anyway because it's important and it's humane and it's right. So you know, as far as I'm concerned, a really good story about a really great character that happens to be gay or whatever has a better chance of maybe reaching some of these people and making them look at it differently. I'm much more interested in the inclusion and people will look, you know, caring about the character enough that they'll care about Scandal's relationships, not just because she's gay, but because it's a relationship and they can relate to that relationship in some way or other. It just to me, it doesn't matter, but it is a newer thing that we're kind of trying to get, and we don't want to do it wrong because it's going to cause more problems than help.
Howard, you actually in Stuck Rubber Baby, you very much tied issues of race in with issues of sexuality. Was that a deliberate decision at the beginning of your story-making process? Is this something that reflects your experiences in your life growing in the South? Or?
Well, I was using both of these themes because they were both an important part of my past history since I grew up in Birmingham during a period when the civil rights movement and racial strife sort of hit a peak. And I was interested in the nuance. I'm interested in nuances of things, including the nuances of racism, nuances of being out or not out, and nuances simply of being human beings with hang-ups. And one of the, and I feel like it is an important step to get over catering to the comfort levels of groups for fear that, you know, they may squirm. With Stuck Rubber Baby, more than anything else I've done, I was aware that this was likely to reach a broader audience, an audience farther afield from the mainly gay audience that had read my Wendell comic strips in The Advocate, which was a gay magazine. And I was interested, one of my little agendas was trying to kind of lure my straight readers into having a feeling for what it's like to be gay and to be in the closet, and to perhaps raise questions in their mind about their own friends and maybe do they really know who's gay and who's not among their friends. As an example, I had the question with Tolan Pope, my central character, of at what point was I going to let readers know he was gay, since I knew he was going to spend a lot of the book in the closet. But I wanted to do it early on, and I did, within a few pages of the book's opening, because then you watched some of the ways in which Tolan played straight. And if you were paying attention, there were scenes in which he was behaving like a lot of the supposedly straight people in the world behave. For example, there's a scene when this group of theoretically, mainly a straight group, go to a gay bar to see a friend of theirs perform a drag show. And so you have the actual straight characters mixed in with Tolan, who's pretending to be straight, and he's there with his girlfriend. And at a certain point, the girls are kind of teasing him because they want the boys to dance and they won't do it, and so the girls dance together, and then they start joking about, oh, people are going to think our girlfriends are lesbian or something, and then the sort of overdone laughter between them over, you know, how absurd that would be, with Tolan absolutely participating. I think a lot of straight people have been in conversations like that, where someone sort of raises the specter of gayness in the room, and then they're all laughing and slapping each other on the back and doing everything they can to reassure each other that, of course, they are apart from the gay people. And there were a lot of little moments where I was hoping maybe straight people would reflect on those kind of nuances of interaction.
Well, it's important to figure out what your audience is going to be. I think